First of all, special thanks to, we can go to the next slide, to Pastor Nick and to the Beit Tehila family. I spent 2 lovely days in Iowa with the other part of the clan. Well, first of all, a little bit of a disclaimer. That is not the kind of music I listened to growing up. Okay? The music is a message. It's about love and brotherhood and getting along. And because, Pastor Nick has asked me to share a little more of my personal story and journey than I usually do when I speak. So we'll go into that momentarily. But you have to understand something. This is my 15th trip to the United States since August of 2013. Just to engage with, embrace, and welcome my brothers and sisters of Ephraim. Sadly, all of those trips are self-funded. So by the way, when people tell you that Jews are good with money, not true. But back to the music that I listened to as a kid, as a teenager. I'll be honest with you. Led Zeppelin, Leonard Skinner, Black Sabbath. I love coming to Hebrew Roots congregations and mentioning Black Sabbath. Because usually, there's that, dysrhythmia, And the very first time that I shared that song, because it was a suggestion of someone saying, Hanoch, this is what your message is about, play it. I was in Georgetown, Texas, at a congregation, Messiah Chad, and I'm mentioning, Black Sabbath, and there were a couple of people in the audience who kind of they were like, oh yeah, man, this is great. And I said, come on, I was just in the airport. I spend way too much time in airports. And I was just listening to NIB. I'm sure you've all heard it. It's like, na, 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 na. Just at that moment, a woman in the back, maybe 80 years old, gray hair, long ponytail, yells out, oh yeah! That was Ozzy's lyric. So, you have to understand something. I'm a tour guide. A good tour guide is always thinking of the 3 E's: educate, enlighten, and entertain. And if I were to really tell you what it's like traveling around Ephraimite groups, you'd be crying. So we're going to try to keep a little bit of laughter. I call my little thing Kol Yehuda. By the way, it's not a ministry. We don't do ministries, on our side of the family. We've had some bad experiences. Now, this presentation, What Next Israel? The Path Toward Restoration, really stemmed from a series of talks that I gave over the last year for such a time as this. I'm actually going to be going more into that piece Monday night. By the way, y'all have to come Monday night because that's when we're going to do questions and answers and all kinds of fun things. It's not going to be a repeat. In fact, I can never remember what I say from time to time, so actually we really don't know. But that presentation was designed to show the premise that more has occurred in the previous 3 years towards the restoration of all of Israel than in the previous 3,000. And I proved it, and it was really cool. Things on both sides of the family, Ephraim and Judah, all those elements of restoration. And I almost immediately began being inundated with emails from people saying, well, I don't get it. We've done everything that we need to do. Where's the redemption? First of all, by the way, we've done everything we need to do is so not right. And someone wrote to me and said, so what's the Messiah waiting for? I don't get the easy questions, it seems. And I started to think that perhaps people were misunderstanding elements of prophecy, and I thought it would be great to go back to basics and start taking a fresh look at what it is. Because, years ago, in a previous lifetime, I had corporate experience. I worked for companies like Exxon, PepsiCo, Johnson & Johnson. It was a fun ride. but we always went through expectations versus reality, particularly when you were dealing with a client. You're coming from the parent company, you're dealing with a client. What is it that you're expecting? So let's just jump in. Next slide, please. And it will come to pass on that day, a great shofar will be blown, and they will come, those who were lost in the land of Ashur, Assyria, and the outcasts in the land of Mitzrayim, Egypt, will worship Hashem on the holy mountain of Jerusalem. Yeshayahu. By the way, I tend to transliterate the names of the prophets because you all need to start getting used to the sound of your own language again. So, however, the sound of okay, let's jump to something. I said Hashem. As most traditionally believing Jews, we tend to say Hashem. Even though we speak Hebrew, we don't attempt to pronounce the divine name. By the way, I have absolutely no problem whatsoever with any way that you choose to pronounce the divine name. It's not my business. It's your relationship with Avinu Shebashamayim, our Father in heaven. It has nothing to do with me. So, and what's funny is, everyone's convinced they've got the right pronunciation. I go from place to place to place, and everyone's got it. And what's amazing, it's Yehovah, Yahweh, 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 my way, the highway, every different name. Remember something, the divine name is only 4 Hebrew letters. Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey. How in English does that become 8 syllables? Yahweh. Less arrogance, more humility. What a concept. But the sound of the shofar, there isn't a single person that's in this walk that doesn't speak of the sound of the shofar, piercing their soul. And of course, you start the service with the sound of the shofar. I was a little concerned. I didn't think Will was going to sit down afterwards. He was just going to stand there, but I love you. And Ephraim has gone all over the world blowing the shofar, expecting that everyone else will hear it and will pierce their souls and they'll come home. Next slide, please. And they've been blowing the shofar. And the next slide. And blowing the shofar. Next slide, please. And right here in Brandon, blowing the shofar. And even getting their kids, next slide, please, to blow the shofar. But they seem disappointed that their Christian relatives and neighbors aren't coming in, flocking in congregations like this or Ruach Ministries. The doors are open, and there are still empty seats. Why? First of all, big difference. My personal understanding and belief, and by the way, you can disagree with me at any time. No heckling. But you could I come from the side of the family where disagreement is a natural state of affairs. No, it's not the way I see it. Great, so who cares? Let's go out for ice cream. Big deal. One thing for sure you could learn from us on that. Got to tell you that. Because there are people who believe that every Christian is an Ephraimite. I do not. I do not. I mean, really, if they were, wouldn't they be with us today? I know some of you have said, well, I've gone and I've sat down with my brothers or sisters or whatever. We've gone chapter and verse and they don't get it. When y'all were Christians, you were trying to convert us for 2,000 years, chapter and verse. Doesn't work. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's jump into some other prophecies real quick. Amos. For I will give the order and shake the house of Israel through all the nations as one shakes in a sieve and not a pebble falls on the ground. Okay. Most people interpret that to mean that there are going to be tens of millions, hundreds of millions of Ephraimites woken up, brought home, bingo. Let me give you an alternate understanding. It's Hashem, it's God who doesn't forget and doesn't lose a single one of us, but he sends out that divine email, and it requires an RSVP. Okay? We've been given free will. We have to make the choice. We have to step forward. So, although we're the tip of the spear, there may not be a long part behind us. It may only be a short part. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is the part of the presentation where I start feeling like E.T. You're like, home. And I have to tell you, it's wonderful to come into congregations where every other word is about Israel and you see pictures of Israel. I'm like a fish out of water right now, got to tell you. That's Shomron, Samaria. Next slide, please. Yirmiyahu, Jeremiah teaches us, I will take one from a city and two from a family. That's exactly what's going on in this world, in this movement. Your entire family, friends, relatives, neighbors. And I know the tremendous sacrifices that people have made to be in this walk. Marriages are broken up, relationships, family members have nothing to do with you because y'all are busy doing all that Jew stuff. I always find that amusing. If I shared with you half the things that I hear, well, people say, well, let's say we'd all be walking out of here with a perm. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. And by the way, I personally, as I said, I understand the sacrifices you've made. And I know that no sane person would have chosen this walk on their own. Really. It's all driven by the divine will. Now this is the part of the personal story that this week, the last week in April, 1994, 24 years ago, I began meeting people who said to me, you know, I'm not Jewish, but I think I'm part of Israel. Say what? And I have to tell you something, and I'll explain the next part a little later. I have never gotten drunk and never been high in my entire life. The only time I got a reaction like that, I was in a Baptist congregation in Millbrook, Alabama. I mentioned I've never been drunk, I've never gotten high. Pastor looks at me and goes, I didn't realize I'd be in with the Baptists. There's a reason for that, but I couldn't figure out what these people could have possibly ingested that caused them to have this delusion. But to figure out who they were, I went back to the Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible. And I now describe this moment as discovering what I call the best kept secret in the entire Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible. That all the prophets speak of Judah and Ephraim. Well, Lord have mercy. I jumped on my horse and began galloping around, telling everyone, like Paul Revere. People look at me like, what? Because we're still in the situation that Yosef faced with his brothers. To me, this is the most emotional part of the entire Torah. And people become visual. They're all different types of learners. As I've gotten older, even though my last name is Young, that made me very popular, by the way, in Utah among the Mormons. They were like, where'd you come from? Yeah, little do you know. But, understand, I don't know how to best describe this. I don't know why I'm in this movement. We serve Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, who doesn't make mistakes. But you don't know how many times I would say, with all due respect, do you know what it's like? I've been to conferences and to meetings and to congregations and having people sitting with me and we're joking. Then they look at me, what are you doing here? It's the one hand clapping thing going on because people all want to jump around and sing when Ephraim and Judah come together, and they want to wave banners, and you know what? Most of these places should go and tear down that banner, Judah, because they will not, 2/3 of Hebraic roots, Messianic believing congregations, to house in the United States of America won't let me in the front door. Well, but you know what? It's part of the shakeout. It's part of the shakeout going on. They won't. And the thing is, there's also not a Hebrew roots congregation that doesn't sing and dance to Hinei Matov. Rip the lyric out, how pleasant it is for brothers to dwell in unity. Forget it. Because y'all don't believe it. Now we say y'all. Okay. I have to explain why I say y'all. Okay. There's a theological reason. Let me explain. If you haven't strapped on your seatbelt yet, start doing it now. My understanding, my belief, my experience of the last 24 years has been that you descend from Ephraim, the northern kingdom of Israel. On the other hand, I come from Judah, the southern kingdom. No offense to all of y'all, I'm the southern boy here. It just works that way. So I get to say y'all all I want. It is what it is. Next slide, please. The Arbel Cliffs. Gotta love it. Next slide, please. Okay, let's go to some more prophecy. He will hold up a signal, a banner to the nations, and assemble the banished of Israel and gather the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. Okay, so those congregations that belong to the so-called, quote-unquote, Messianic Jewish world somehow say, well, that's only the Jewish people. Come on. Look right at the words. By the way, Ephraim, and the term Ephraim, let me explain. Ephraim doesn't necessarily mean just from the tribe of Ephraim. When the kingdom split after the death of Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon, the northern kingdom was known by four names: Israel, Ephraim, Samaria, and Joseph. Four names. Usually called Ephraim because Ephraim was the largest constituent tribe. The southern kingdom, Judah, was called Judah because of the largest constituent tribe, which was Judah. That's the whole mystery going on there. So, we've got this divine promise that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed is He, is going to reunite. But there's another key element to this here. Not just telling us that there's Israel and Judah, but the four corners of the earth. My pet peeve has been there are people who've written books and made a living on trying to sell the theory that when the kingdom of Israel was destroyed, 722 before the Common Era, taken off into the Assyrian exile, they got all the way to Middle Asia, did a broken U-turn and wound up in Northwest Europe, mostly England. And thanks to British imperialism, wound up in places like Canada, the United States, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand. What do those people have in common? Oh, they're all white folks. And they sell this theory, and a book that came out recently actually says, well, yes, most of Ephraim is amongst the Northern European, Anglo-Saxons. Really? Okay, let me tell you something. The banished of Israel were scattered to the four corners of the earth. Asia to Europe? Okay, picture a map in your head. I know this is, I should have brought my own maps. When you come to Israel on the Beit Tehila tour, I'll have lots of maps for you. Below Egypt. Okay, the Assyrians are coming from the northeast. You got to flee. Where do you go? You can't go west because there's that thing called the Mediterranean. East looks flat on our maps, but you got all these mountains in Jordan, what's called Jordan today. It's part of Israel. It is. So you go south. South, you go to Egypt. Our people didn't hang around Egypt. We had some bad experiences there previously. There's a huge continent called Africa. None of the children of Israel would have gone to Africa. They wouldn't have stayed in Asia. They could only go to Europe. Let me tell you something. Not only is it stupid, not only is it not scriptural, because Hosea says, you were to become lo ami, not my people. And but you'll remember if you're from the tribe of Dan, that when you cross a river, you'll name it the Danube? Or that the England, United Kingdom, the British, really means Brit-ish, confident people? Man, just say no to drugs. Come on. What are you thinking? Next slide, please. Yeah, Ein Gedi. Yeah. Next slide. If you remember nothing else about me, please remember that I'm all about mutual respect for the reconciliation and restoration of all of Israel. Now, that's mutual respect. Now, having grown up in the Bronx, we spoke something similar to English. But my understanding of mutual respect was it's a two-way street. And when I speak to groups, now you have to understand, in all these trips, I've spoken to a lot of groups, the ones that'll have me. Now, first of all, do you know what it's like speaking to a group when people are looking at you saying, at the end of this talk, we're going to get that Jew. Going to be run out of town on a rail. Or the people, I'm sharing this with Pastor Nick, who invite me and then cancel at the last minute. Now understand, I'm already in America. It's not like I could fly home for Shabbat. Which is now, by the way, why I only fly Southwest. Because not only they let me bring my 250-pound bags, but I get to change my flights when people hang me. Because all of a sudden, someone tells them that this Hanoch guy is not what y'all like to call a believer. Now, I can quote someone, the matriarch of this movement, Batya Wooten, who has said, there's something wrong with us, if we call our Jewish brothers and sisters who have faithfully kept the Torah while we were crawling through the pig pens of history, we call them not believers. You may not like what we did with the Torah, but you know what? You know, you think that we've got fences on fences on fences on fences, but when you eat in a kosher restaurant, they're not finding human DNA in the burgers. There may be an advantage to it. So mutual respect. That means Judah doesn't try to turn Ephraim, Joseph into Judah, and everyone loves that part. Where the canker gnaws, so to speak, is the next part, that Joseph doesn't try to turn Judah into Joseph. Now, there are people who say, well, wait a minute, they're in error. Everyone, because the one thing in this movement, what this movement needs more than anything else are orthopedic surgeons. What? Why? Because everyone is so thrilled that they've got all the truth, and they're so busy patting themselves on the back, they're going to hurt their rotator cuff and need surgery to repair it. I'm losing my mind in error. Have you guys ever had that experience when you're studying the Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible, at night? You put it down, you go to sleep, you get up the next morning, you open up, and there's a new verse in there. Never seen that verse before. It wasn't there. It's now big, bold, italics, and it's three-dimensional. You can touch it. I found that. Jeremiah chapter 46, verse 28 says, in due course I will correct you. Never saw that before, I got to tell you. I was at a conference in Lake City, Florida. I was studying the Tanakh in the morning. I called up Mike Clayton. You guys have to know Mike. Mike's an outstanding teacher in this movement. jointtohashem.org, amazing guy. I called him up and said, Mike, I just found the most amazing verse. It's like, Hanoch, it's 7:20 in the morning. You could tell me later. No, I got to tell you now. And by the way, if it doesn't say that, if it doesn't read that way when you go home and check me later, you all need to be reading the Bible in the original Hebrew, not someone's mistranslation and interpretation of it. In due course, I will correct you. In due course, when he's ready. Correct you, that's the royal you, all of us. But who does the correction? Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King. I don't know how it worked in your families, but it never quite worked out well in my family when my daughters would attempt to correct each other. Mutual respect. Think of the story of Joseph. I told you, I become visual. So when I read the stories in the Torah and throughout the Tanakh, I picture them on screens. It's a good thing I didn't use drugs. Yeah, I mean, like, Great. Okay, so the story of Joseph, he's there. The brothers are in front of him. They have no clue who he is. Remember, he's got the Egyptian haircut. He's got the Egyptian clothes. He's in a position of authority. He walks like an Egyptian. The whole thing going on. No clue who he is. He tests them a last time to see if they've learned. They haven't been good brothers. He puts the cup in Benjamin's. Finally, Judah, Yehudah, stands there and says, in the famous words of Roberto Duran, no mas. That's it. You're not going to take him. Yosef is then overcome with emotion. He orders the Egyptians out of the room and he cries out, Ani Yosef, I'm Joseph. Okay, I know that here in Beit Tehila you study scripture. So could someone please tell me the very next verse, what the brothers say in response? You don't remember the verse? There ain't none. They don't say a word because they're standing there like this. Did he say he was Joseph? Shh, you'll get us in trouble. He cries out again, Ani Yosef achichem. I'm Joseph, your brother. That's when they, is right. That's when they're going like this. Gulp. Because they deserve to be punished. They deserved a scene from, I love it, from Kill Bill, grabbing a big samurai sword, jumping out there and hacking them to pieces. What does he do instead? They embrace each other. They fall on each other. They welcome each other. They cry. And by the way, you'll notice something. Never does he say, hey, are you all believers? He welcomes them and loves them as they are. What a concept. By the way, in this world, you get to pick your friends. You don't get to pick your family. Sorry, y'all are stuck with me. Next slide, please. Okay, so here's the problem. Where's the mutual respect? And by the way, I am not referring to Judah and Ephraim. I mean, I get all the slings and arrows. Forget that. I'm talking about Ephraim and Ephraim. I'm talking about the incessant need people have to beat down everyone else who doesn't agree exactly with them. Oh my goodness. I was here last in America in November, December speaking. And you know, after Thanksgiving, that's a tough time in America. You know, dun, 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 because you have that other holiday coming up in December. Hanukkah. No, I'm talking about Christmas. I actually met people who were storing non-perishable foods so they wouldn't have to go to Walmart or Piggly Wiggly, love that store, to buy things because they didn't want someone to wish them a Merry Christmas. Now, they are so crazed about Christmas, they can't accept, like, okay, well, we don't do that. The idea that other people do makes them nuts. The idea that their 94-year-old saintly granny has a family dinner every year on December 25th. Now, poor granny is not going to be around all that much longer. But you know, because you're in the Hebrew Roots movement, you know that you should go in there and tie Granny. Because, you know, Granny's got that tree. She's not worshiping the tree, but she's got a tree. You should be tying Granny and your other pagan relatives to that tree and set them all on fire. I got to tell you, I'm willing to venture that you know the New Testament a lot better than I do. Maybe yes, maybe no. Please show me where Yeshua would have acted that way. Oh man, don't you just hate when the Jewish guy comes in and tells you that? Oh, ouch. Ow, that hurt. Mutual respect. Oh my goodness. Now understand that people say, well, you know, I've got the truth. I'm hair on fire because I've got the truth. Understand, y'all believe that when you were charismatic Pentecostals, when you were Baptists, you all had the truth. And I'm willing to venture that everyone in this room, other than me, perhaps, has been a Christian at some point in their life. How can you not have sympathy and understanding and empathy for people who don't see things the way you do? And then people are freaking out. They're saying, well, Hanoch, you have no idea what it's like for us around Christmas. It's not our holiday. They're only playing Christmas music. No one cares about what we're observing. You have no idea what it's like. I grew up in an Irish Catholic neighborhood in the Bronx. Everyone wanted to stomp my brains every day because I was the local Christ killer. I have no idea. I'm in the nation of Texas. And I go with two people into Walmart. I needed to shop in Walmart. I have no Christmas taboo, pre-Christmas taboo, pre-Christmas jitters. And the cashier looked at me and said, "So, you all set for Christmas?" My two buddies went like, and I saw the look like, yeah, Hanoch's really going to give it to her, man. He's going to give it to her in Hebrew and Aramaic at the same time. This is great. And I looked at her and I said, "Thank you, I'm as ready as I'll need to be." Why do you look to spit on someone in their beliefs? Next slide, please. You know, it's funny. I didn't order the slides in this presentation, the pictures. These are all my pictures. By the way, if you use your own pictures, no one can ever sue you. It's kind of a funny thing. But it's funny talking about people's attitudes and we wind up with the donkeys behind. Great. Yeah, he's got a plan. Next slide, please. It's Ephraim versus Ephraim. That's the problem. It's the inability to speak civilly to each other. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Because people, before you even speak to your Jewish brothers and sisters, you got to learn to play in the same sandbox nicely. I mean, to me, it's not that radical. Next slide, please. Yeah. By the way, that's a picture from Itamar in Shomron in Samaria. But I want you to look at it closely. We're off topic here slightly, because I want you to see the tremendous overcrowding in the Arab refugee camps. You know, those Arabs who refer to themselves as Palestinians, a term that didn't really exist till 1964, but, oh, I'm sorry. I guess that's sarcasm. Next slide, please. The Issues of the Month Club. We all have a different religious understanding and appreciation than we did 5 or 10 years ago. Agreed? Can I have a witness? Okay, excellent. I'm learning. I'm trying. But there are people who say, no. It's not only the divine name, it's the new month. Is it the conjunction or the sliver? The flat earth. Come on. If the earth were indeed flat, by now, don't you think the cats would have pushed everything off to the side? I met a woman in Virginia who was explaining to me the lunar Sabbath. I mean, wow, she must have done some serious drugs. But there's a new issue. The Jews aren't the real Jews. I love that one. Why? Because God evidently made a mistake. Because as he's been bringing all of us back to Israel, 6,447,000 of us, he made a mistake. The land does not refer to Israel. Now, when I was speaking to Mormon groups, they were telling me that, Zion is Missouri. Like, isn't there an I in there at the end? But it's no Missouri. So I made them a deal. They can have their Zion in Missouri. We'll keep ours in Israel. They were happy with that. Next slide, please. By the way, that's Qumran, where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. Next slide, please. Expectations versus reality. We have to keep asking ourselves, if your expectation is that your Jewish brothers and sisters, people aren't talking about respect. They're talking about submission. They're talking about, in effect, surrender. I fully understand and appreciate my brothers and sisters and don't believe, scripturally based, that they need to become us. Our Father in heaven himself will straighten us all out. And I got to tell you, the way I see it is at the end of days, we're all going to get an individualized prescription. What you've been doing is pretty good. What you should have been doing a little more of this, a little less of that. That's what it's about. Next slide, please. That's Masada. Next slide. Okay, I know what you're all thinking right now. Shofar on the hoof. I want you to leave our ibex alone. I want you all to come to Israel often, but leave our ibex alone. Next slide, please. Okay, now we get into some more meaty stuff. We took a little break. Let's jump in. Behold, days are coming, says Hashem, when it will no longer be said, as Hashem lives, that brought up the children of Yisrael out of the land of Mitzrayim, Egypt. But as Hashem lives, that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north and from all the lands into which he had driven them. And I will bring them back into their land that I gave to their fathers. Yirmiyahu, Jeremiah. Okay, a lot of things here. This is part of what people refer to as the Greater Exodus. And there are some people, particularly in the state of Oklahoma, that have made a lot of money on this Greater Exodus thing. They write books, they sell DVDs, blah, 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 blah. The problem is when Americans hear greater, they conjugate it. They think they're conjugating a verb, great, greater, greatest. So they think, well, if there were a gazillion people, and Jewish sources estimate that the Exodus from Egypt was 600,000 males, which would have been 2 to 3 million men, women, and children. Okay, so they say, well, this is so much bigger. People writing books, tens of millions of Ephraimites, hundreds of millions of Ephraimites. Ain't going to be the case. I'll show you why in the next few verses, but don't necessarily assume this to be a mass movement of tens of millions of people. By the way, this is worldwide. I had the opportunity to go to Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is that little dot south of India. By the way, that little dot is 22 million people. But what's fascinating, by the way, is the Sri Lankan Ephraimites. Sri Lanka doesn't have a permanent Jewish community. So there's no Jewish influence there. 22 million people. And the Ephraimites are coming from a background in Islam, or as Buddhists or Hindus. They don't have, Western-style Protestant Christianity. Next slide, please. Our ibex are the cutest things. I love them. They have these little argyle socks that they wear. It's just the cutest things ever. Next slide, please. Okay. And there will be a highway for the remnant of his people, which will be left from Ashur, Assyria, as there was for Israel when they came out of the land of Mitzrayim, Egypt. I usually ask people to tell me in that verse, what's the single most important word? And what's fascinating is down in the nation of Texas, when I show them that, they respond that it's highway. They've got like I-65 on the brain. Highway. Pastor Nick is right, it's remnant. We are told that it's not going to be everybody. I told you that divine invitation's going out. RSVP. The lights are on, but you're not home. No. We evidently listen to the same music. I like that. It's remnant. Definitely not. Remnant. Remnant. Next slide, please. Here we go again. Now, I love this this is another verse that I've read repeatedly and didn't get it. Only a remnant will return. Only a remnant of Yaakov, Jacob. By the way, that's all of us. Here's the key part. How did I not see this? How do other people not see this? Even if your people, O Yisrael, should be as the sands of the sea, only a remnant of it will return. It's not interpretation. It's the word. Next slide, please. Kfar Nahum, Capernaum. Who here has been to Israel so far? Okay, the rest of y'all, by the way, all of y'all, the rest? The answer is not yet. That's the only acceptable answer. That's an amazing Beit Knesset, a synagogue. And most people will tell you, they'll take you there and they'll say, this is where Yeshua preached. And you look at that synagogue and say, wow, this is really, well, no, actually, that's a couple of hundred years after. The spot, the synagogue that it was built upon was where Yeshua preached. Next slide, please. We even have sunsets in Israel. Did I, sunrise, sunset. No, that was Russia. Next slide, please. It's always the Russians they're. Another picture of Ein Gedi. I love that. Next slide, please. Okay. This is another verse, and this is disturbing. Because it says, I will settle a large population on you. The whole house of Israel, the towns will be resettled, and the ruined cities rebuilt. How do I understand this? Let me explain. Israel will be resettled, expanded, all that good stuff going on. It's not necessarily going to be us. A large population on you. Where does that come from? Yechezkel, Ezekiel 37, the two sticks, which don't speak about two population groups, but four. The stick of Yosef, Ephraim, and those associated with him. And the stick of Judah, the Jewish people, and those associated with them. Four groups. So, what do I think is going to happen? That first round of... Have you guys ever, had an event or a wedding, and you send out a bunch of invitations and you get the cancellations? Regrets, I can't attend. And then you send out another group of invitations, to fill in those empty seats. Some people have done that. Anyway, that's what I think is going to happen. That's what I think is going to happen. Next slide, please. That's Tamar in the Arava. Next slide. Okay. Here's that line again. I will gather you from all the nations and from all the places to which I have banished you, declares Hashem, and I will bring you back to the place from which I have exiled you. You don't get much more clear than that. Okay, but again, it's all the places we're exiled. So when I read these people who write these nonsensical things of, well, yes, they all went, the majority are they want it to be Anglo-Saxons. They want it to be white people. I got to tell you, the white Europeans, have wreaked enough havoc in this world. People say, well, what's Ephraim going to look like when they return? Walk down the streets of Jerusalem. Every color, ethnic, I'll tell you, it's not like the Jewish people in Miami. It's different. But people go and they write these bizarre things. And you know what? I don't think people realize how condescending they are. A recent book where in addition to that theory, the authors are proposing that, well, this may be a shock, but we don't believe that Judah needs to convert to Christianity. Oh, bless their hearts. That's a non sequitur. That's a throwaway term. Why? Because y'all don't believe you're Christians. You don't consider yourself part of Christianity. So to say, well, the Jews don't need to become... And then they say, well, but we know that it'll all be revealed to them. Those silly, stupid Jews. And don't you think I know that verse from 2 Corinthians 3:15? The veil over the heart thing? Do you know where that verse originally comes from? Isaiah, which speaks about us all having a veil over our eyes. Oh, really? Not just the silly Jew, silly rabbit. Tricks are for kids. I'm about to lose my mind with this stuff because I just don't get what people don't get. And to say, I accept you as you are, but I know you're going to be changed because you're a loser. But when they come and they say, I want to go live in Israel, and someone says, well, give up Yeshua and become a Jew. And they're like, what's wrong with you people? What do you want from me? Yeah, well, it works both ways. Next slide, please. That's also Tamar in the Arava. Next slide. Behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the nations. I can go verse after verse after verse after verse. I'm just going to put a few more of them up because we're going to go on to more fun stuff. I only have about another hour and a half. So, never give a tour guide a live mic. Because it's kind of like, clock? I don't see a clock in the background. Yeah, Pastor Russell was telling me they hold up time cards. And I'm thinking, I didn't realize what that meant. What's funny is I've been an Israeli for 8.5 years, a little more than 8.5 years. And at this point, my improvement in Ivrit, in Hebrew, is only gradual. And even though I work in English, I'm rapidly forgetting English. Soon I'll be semi-literate in both languages simultaneously. So he said time cards. I'm thinking of time cards of like, you punch a time card. No, the time cards are like 5 minutes and we're yanking you off kind of thing. Bless his heart. No. Anyway, let's keep going. Next slide, please. I'm looking follically challenged there. I don't like that. Next slide, please. Ooh. And I myself will gather the remnant of my flock from all the lands to which I have banished them, and I will bring them back to their pasture, and they will be fertile and increase. Hear me out. It's not the Knesset. It's not our parliament that's going to change the laws and vote and get you into Israel. We're not there yet. Understand that. This is a work of Hashem himself. It's not the Knesset. There is only one member of the Knesset, to the best of my knowledge, that knows about Ephraim, and that's Rav Yehuda Glick. And I know that for a fact because I spoke to him about it. We're a little distracted. We've got 140,000, precision, guided missiles pointing at us from Lebanon alone. We're a little distracted. People say to me, well, I heard your Knesset is going to be meeting any day now for the tens of thousands of Ephraimites that are banging on the door. First of all, where are the tens of thousands of Ephraimites? I was in Virginia recently. I spoke to 5 people. Where are the tens of thousands of Ephraimites? And what door are they banging on? And I said, what news source did you read this in? People, y'all got to stop making stuff up. If you don't know the answer to something, and listen, I've got my cards out there. Take my card. Stay in touch with me. By the way, if we're not friends on Facebook already, shame on you. Friend me tonight. I go through, this is, there's an expression in Yiddish that my grandmother used to use that translates to, a man tries and plans and God is laughing. A Mensch tracht und Gott lacht. And that is so true. Here it is. I was put into this position, and I have to tell you, I tried to run away from this responsibility for the longest time. Not everyone in this walk is as nice as you find here at Beit Tehila and at Ruach. Maybe it's a Brandon kind of thing, but they're not. It's a hard thing. And to come up with the money and to do all that traveling. And you know what's funny? I'm a tour guide. When I'm not in Israel, I'm not working. When I'm not working, I'm not getting paid. What's up with that? So, it's funny. I go back and, my landlord will be expecting a check for the rent. So people say, you should speak to people about what you do. By the way, I've done that with Southwest. I've gone and I've explained to them about helping to reconcile Judah and Ephraim. They were incredibly impressed, much more so than El Al, by the way. And they said to me, that's fantastic. So what credit card will you be using for that reservation? So, I've run away from, because I didn't know what I was supposed to do with you. Which was okay because you didn't know what you were supposed to do with yourselves. So it was fine. Because I quickly realized it was literally to be like the greeter in Walmart. In New York City, we never had Walmart. I never knew of Walmart until I was in Winchester, Kentucky in August of 2013. My good buddy and partner in crime for United to Restore, Ken Rank, took me to a Walmart. I was like, whoa. Have you ever been in a supermarket in Israel? The supermarket could fit here in the sanctuary. Okay, Walmart's like, whoa. Well, and the prices. Okay, I heard it's not a great place to work, but the prices are outrageous. Yeah, I'm going shopping at Walmart over the next couple of days here. From Brandon, I go on to Lake City, Florida, and there are Walmarts all along the way. And my good buddy David Altman is here. We're going to drive. We're going to do like a Walmart tour through Florida. I got to tell you, I'm very easily pleased. So I try to run away from this, but I kept being dragged back. And do you know what? I wanted to see someone else do it. Someone else who was better qualified. Someone else who liked to fly in airplanes. But what I was mentioning before about Facebook, I go through separation anxiety. I'm the worst person to come and build relationships, and then I have to leave. And then to have been given the skills to become a tour guide. By the way, I became a tour guide in Israel because who else was going to be prepared to show Ephraim their homeland again? Now, becoming a tour guide in Israel is insanely masochistic. It's a 2-year course. It's very competitive to get in, and you could be washed out at any time by the exams. I wound up having to do it all in Hebrew because they weren't offering an English language course based out of Jerusalem. In America, I completed 2 master's degrees and got 3/4 of the way through a 3rd one. Stupid as stupid does. If you combine all that graduate work and compare to what it took to become a tour guide, nothing in comparison. But the irony is, I was a shy guy. I was the guy in college that would sit in a room and say, "Oh, that girl is so pretty," and never get the guts to walk over and at least say, "Hi, can I have your phone number?" Seriously. So, as I was dragged into this role, I all of a sudden got the knowledge, skills, and ability to do this. And I have to tell you something. I may be an okay public speaker, but I am such an awesome tour guide. Pardon the lack of false modesty. To be given that skill set for what's needed. And I have to tell you, we all have to reach deep down inside and pull out what we don't think is there. We are at a time when the people of Israel are calling to you. So don't worry about what the government of Israel is doing or not doing. It's going to happen. We've been promised that. Next slide, please. I took that picture of Tamar. It's beautiful. Next slide. Tamar. Not tomorrow. Tamar. In the Arava. We are one people, one land, one Torah. By the way, I'll use this pause to drink. If you go over to a Jewish person and say, "Are you a 2-house believer?" they will not know what you're talking about. We only believe in one house. We've tried the 2-kingdom thing. It didn't work out so well, right? We're trying to undo that now after 3,000 years. We are one house. We are one people. Now, again, I mentioned, you get to pick your friends, not your family. This is what it is. So what? Our strength comes from our diversity rather than despite it. Next slide, please. If you connect to the land will connect to you. Now, it's not a big surprise to you, what I'm about to tell you, probably not, that Mike Clayton and I have created something called the Connect to Israel Tour because it's all about connecting. The good news is, next slide, please. Well, that's me guiding at Gamla. By the way, one of the most significant sites in all of Israel. 10 out of 9 people who've been there have no idea why. Come with me and I'll show you. Next slide, please. Yeah, I was going to invite you to the Connect to Israel tour. Well, the good news is it's sold out. The better news is you all have your own tour. And you're stuck with me. Do you know what's really funny? The Beit Tehila tour, y'all go back on Sunday night. And these kids come in on Monday morning. That's okay. I'll have time to go home and wash clothes. Not much more. Next slide, please. But it's about connecting. There's Mike Clayton. By the way, that's a note to self. Don't ever take pictures with people that are much taller than you. You wind up looking like a hobbit. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay. There, just to understand the difference. And Pastor Tikva and I were playing with the itinerary the other day to make sure that we're at that spot. That's Mount Kabir. And over to, off my left shoulder there in the picture, there's the Mount of Blessing and the Mount of Curses. Okay? The Beit Tehila tour is not the go see the holy sites type tour. Just like the Connect to Israel tour isn't either. That's not what it's about. It's to connect you to the land of Israel. And to the land of Israel, ancient and modern, to the Jewish people of today, and to the God of Israel. It's about connecting. It's about reconnecting and being part of the family. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the key point. As much as you need to see Israel, Israel needs to see you. This is the thing. Israel needs to see you. People say to me, well, don't they know that, we exist and, we eat biblically clean and, we have services on Shabbat and we're busy Shabbatin. I'm learning a whole new vocabulary. Shabbatin, Sukkotin. I always think, I walk into some congregations sometimes and I think I should be either hearing the theme from the Beverly Hillbillies or do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do from Deliverance. By the way, I visited dear friends of ours in Blue Ridge, Georgia, and I didn't know that that's where they filmed Deliverance, in those mountains. So Shabbat afternoon, they said, Hanoch, do you want to go for a walk in the mountains? No. No. This boy is brave, but he ain't stupid. You need to build relationships. I have to tell you, speaking to Pastor Nick, and he's telling me, well, we invite this one, and we've had this one, and we have this, and in listening to him, you would think that it's a normal thing to have people like me. It must be, David, we have the same thing at Ruach. It must be a Brandon kind of thing. There are some states in the United States of America that don't have a single congregation that would welcome in a Jewish brother. And I got to tell you, good news and bad news. You will not find another Jewish person on this earth more accepting and embracing than me. But that's not enough for most people. And I don't know what else to tell you. Next slide, please. That's that synagogue in Kfar Nachum. And there's David Jones in the blue shirt. Well, Lord have mercy. Next slide, please. Next slide. Let's skip that one. Ooh. Does anyone know where that is? That's Christ Church in Jerusalem. That's my favorite church in Israel. I know you're looking at me like, don't worry, I usually don't take you to churches. Next slide, please. Mike, next slide. Oh, man. That's the southern steps of the Temple Mount. People ask me all the time, as a tour guide, can you show me where Yeshua would have walked? Now, they don't mean a general direction, or where Constantine's mama, Helena, said, oh, this must have happened here. Let me build a church. No. Right there. You see where the people are sitting? By the way, those are all Ephraimites. On those restored steps, the ones closest, the broken ones, are the original ones of 2,000 years ago. Without a doubt, he would have walked it. By the way, a tour guide always also has to be thinking of the P scale. Probable, possible, preposterous. Probable. Next slide, please. Next slide. It's Masada. It was hot. Next slide. Ooh, who wouldn't like a boat ride on the Kinneret, on the Sea of Galilee? And you know what's cute about that picture? There are a couple of things. First of all, everyone's clapping in time with each other. You ever see these pictures like from weddings? You've got like 3 people clapping and someone going like off in the other direction. I don't know how that happens. I also like if you see in the shadows lurking in the background, that kind of like Darth Vader character. That's me. Yeah. Got to know when to hold them and know when to throw them. When they're dancing, I'm standing on the side. My dancing, no. I was guiding a group of Ephraimites on Sukkot 2 years ago, and a woman came up to me, bright-eyed, and she's all excited because she just realized something. She said, I just realized something. Did you know that your Israeli folk dance is very similar to our Davidic dance? Now, I don't do Israeli folk dance or Davidic dance or whatever you want to call it. I mean, I learned to dance. That was, how did I learn to dance as a kid in the Bronx? Soul Train, come on. Yeah, I mean, the organized steps. No, man, it's freestyle. Come on. I'm not going to bust a move. Don't get nervous. Next slide, please. I'm really out of control. I'm about embracing Ephraim. Okay? This is what it is. This is our next step. We can't get together until we know each other. We need to demonstrate to Avinu Shabashamayim, our Father in heaven, that we have learned our lessons and are anxious to get back together. Next slide, please. That was in Bessemer, Alabama. I'm holding up 4 fingers. The 4 names: Israel, Ephraim, Joseph, and Samaria. Fascinating congregation. You know, I love when people tell me that they're absolutely committed to this walk and then don't quite live it out. Give you 2 examples. I'm there on the Shabbat after Thanksgiving. However, in Alabama, that Shabbat is special. There's something called the Iron Bowl game. Auburn, University of Alabama, you know, Roll Tide Roll? Yeah. People wouldn't even record it to watch it later. That was their priority. But I also have to say that after speaking at that congregation, and I know that this is being recorded, and this will be watched by other people, which is exactly why I'm saying it, that all of a sudden, afterwards, someone looked in their bylaws, and they found out that actually, if someone isn't a believer, they're not allowed to speak from the bima, the platform, on Shabbat. Yeah. Next slide, please. Kol Yehuda, a voice from Judah. By the way, you'll notice I say a voice from Judah. A voice from Judah. I don't say the only authentic voice, the only voice you should listen to, but I'm a voice. I'm just one person. Next slide, please. I don't know my favorite picture of all time that I took. I was guiding a group of Dutch Ephraimites. We're in the Arava at the Jordanian border. It's beginning to get dark, and I said, guys, let's get out of here. Just as we're walking away, the clouds parted briefly, the sun burst through. I grabbed my handy-dandy point-and-click camera and went, Chick. Why? Because I was coming to America 2 months later to do a presentation called The Light of the Maccabees. By the way, I come from Modi'in, Israel's newest city located midway between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. Modi'in, of course, is the home of the Maccabees. By the way, the Maccabees, who defeated the Greeks, restored the temple, and brought us what holiday? Hanukkah, that's right, where the custom is to eat fried foods. By the way, our brothers and sisters here in the South, they've been doing that every day since. So I took this picture. I'm showing this in East LJ, Georgia. As I say, I don't usually get to play the big venues like Brandon. So, East LJ, Georgia, guy jumps up and says, how'd you set up the shot? I said, I don't know what you're talking about. So, well, how'd you set up the shot? I said, I didn't set it. He said, can I show you? He said, well, obviously the light's coming from Israel. I said, you mean the light of the Torah? No, he said, literally. I said, how do you see that? He said, well, above it to the right is Asia, to the left is Europe, and then you've got Africa. So how'd you set up the shot? Coming from the Bronx, the response is basically like, yeah, well, yeah, man. This is our reminder. We're to be the light in the midst of impending darkness. We are to be the light, not the heat. On Facebook, you see it all the time. People getting into these stupid arguments with you. Forget it. We are the people of Israel, and it's time to focus on reconciliation and restoration. Toda Rabba. Thank you so much for coming. I want to see all of you Monday night. Toda.